Welcome back to the deep dive where we get our hands dirty with all this information overload so you don't have to. And today's topic might really hit home for folks who, maybe like us, prefer the old-fashioned ways
Yeah.
and maybe view all this progress with a bit of suspicion. I'm Andy Analog,
And I'm Betty Betamax.
and today we're diving into a story that honestly feels like it came straight out of a science fiction novel, a bad one. You know, we're talking about Volkswagen.
Oh, yeah, that
The
Volkswagen.
one that's supposed to be building cars, not
Yeah.
building, digital files on everyone who gets behind the wheel.
You see, Volkswagen had a little bit of a data security oopsie. And by oopsie, I mean, well, they exposed the personal information of millions of their customers.
Millions.
Millions. And we're not talking just names and addresses here.
Oh, no, this is way more than just, forgetting to shred some junk mail. This is deep personal information, the kind of stuff that makes you wonder if they've got a crystal ball hidden in those German factories.
Imagine this. They know where you drove, when you drove. They even know how you drove. They know when you charged your electric car,
Really?
where you charged it, and how long you charged it for. They've got your enrollment data, your vehicle data.
Wow.
It's like they're keeping a diary of your every move.
It really makes you want to just, trade in your fancy key fob for a horse and buggy, doesn't it?
Makes you think, yeah. What's really striking here is the sheer scale of it.
The scale.
Yeah. We're talking 15 million vehicles. To put that in perspective, that's like everyone in, pick a state, any state.
Yikes.
Everyone in that state suddenly having their driving habits broadcasted for the whole world to see.
I know what some folks are thinking. I'm a careful driver. I've got nothing to hide. But that's not really the point, is it? It's about the principle. It's about a company overstepping its bounds, collecting and storing information they shouldn't even have in the first place. It's like letting a complete stranger into your home and giving them permission to just, rummage through all your private stuff.
Not a very comforting thought.
Not at all.
And speaking of things that keep you up at night, let's talk about the kind of data that was exposed. We're not talking about just basic contact info here. We're talking enrollment data.
Enrollment data.
Yeah, all the really specific details about your car, how it's registered, and all about you.
Really?
Oh, yeah. The kind of information that could be used to track you, to target you, to create a very, very detailed picture of your life.
Like your habits, your routine.
Exactly. Imagine a company, or even worse, a government agency, with access to that kind of information.
Makes you shudder, doesn't it?
It does. And let's not forget the electric vehicle data. Now, I know electric cars, everyone thinks they're so great.
Future of transportation, right?
Right. But this breach, it makes you wonder about, about what we're giving up in the name of progress. All the trade-offs.
It's like we're trading in our gas-guzzling clunkers for these electric surveillance devices on wheels.
You got it. And before you say it, yes, all cars have computers these days. But this Volkswagen situation, it's a whole other level.
It is.
Remember those old detective movies where they'd stick a tracking device on the bad guy's car? Well, these modern cars, it's like they've got the tracking device built right in.
Built right in. Wow. And Volkswagen's not alone here, are they?
Oh, no, not at all. This is just the tip of the iceberg.
Wow. But let's stick with Volkswagen for now, okay?
Sure.
Because it gets even creepier. They didn't just collect all this data. They stored it.
Yeah.
And not in, some super secure vault either.
No.
They stored it in a way that made it super vulnerable to hackers.
It's like they took all your secrets, wrote them down on a napkin, and just left it sitting on a park bench.
Seriously. Well, speaking of secrets, let's talk about those sensitive locations they found in this breach.
Like government buildings, embassies, private homes.
It's like Volkswagen was keeping tabs on where everyone was going, even when they thought they were, off the grid.
They call it automobile. Vorratsdatenspeicherung.
Automobile? What now?
It's German. Vorratsdatenspeicherung.
Okay, I'm not even going to try that one. But what does it mean?
Basically means storing tons of data just in case.
They keep calling it progress, but it sounds a lot like Big Brother is alive and well.
And riding shotgun in your Volkswagen.
Exactly. And get this, Volkswagen had rules about anonymizing this data. Stripping away all the personal stuff so it couldn't be traced back to you.
Right.
But guess what? They didn't even follow their own rules.
They did it.
It's like they were saying, oh, sure, we'll promise to keep your data safe, but, we're not actually going to do it.
Exactly.
Insult to injury, right?
Yeah.
But their response to this whole thing, that's what's really baffling.
Yeah, what did they do?
They changed passwords but they didn't get rid of the old ones.
Really?
Yeah, it's like locking your front door after someone's already broken in, but leaving a store key under the welcome mat.
Doesn't make much sense.
Makes you wonder if they even grasped how serious this is, or if they just don't care. Either way, not exactly inspiring confidence. You know what gets me, though? This is just one example of something much bigger that's happening.
Oh, absolutely.
It seems like the whole world is going digital, and nobody's asking if we actually want to live in a world where our every move is, tracked, analyzed, and sold to the highest bidder.
It's a slippery slope.
It is. But before we get all doom and gloom here,
Yeah.
let's take a closer look at how this breach happened. Because, well, you know what they say.
Those who can't remember the past are doomed to repeat it.
Exactly. And I, for one, do not want to see this kind of progress repeated anytime soon.
Agreed. So let's unpack this whole mess, shall we?
Let's do it. So it all started with these, well, security researchers poking around in Volkswagen's digital world. They were using these tools called, get this, Subfinder and GoBuster.
Sounds a bit like a...
Like supervillains.
Yeah, more like supervillains than cybersecurity experts, wouldn't you say?
It's like they were using digital lockpicks to find all the weak spots in Volkswagen's security. And what they found, well, it wasn't pretty.
No, it wasn't.
It turns out Volkswagen left some parts of their system wide open.
Like what?
These things called APIs. They're like digital doorways that let different computer programs talk to each other.
I see.
Think of it like your house. You've got all these doors and windows, right?
Right.
The APIs are like the locks on those doors and windows. They're supposed to keep the bad guys out and the good guys in.
Okay.
But in Volkswagen's case, it's like they forgot to install the locks on some of those doors.
Oh, no.
Or maybe they just, left the keys hanging right there for anyone to grab.
Yikes.
Either way, not a good look.
Not at all. So these APIs, they were misconfigured.
That's right, misconfigured. They weren't set up right, so they weren't doing their job of protecting the data. It's like, building a house with shoddy wiring. The lights might come on, but you're probably going to end up with a fire.
A digital fire?
A digital fire. And in this case, the fire was a massive data breach.
Wow.
I know. This all sounds pretty technical. But folks, I'll tell you, those misconfigured APIs, they gave anyone who knew a little bit about computers access to all sorts of data.
Right. And not just boring technical data.
No.
This was personal stuff.
Your personal information, folks. The researchers found they could even access things like AWS credentials.
AWS credentials?
Yeah, they're like master keys to Volkswagen's cloud storage. Whoever has those keys can unlock tons of sensitive information.
So not only did they leave the doors unlocked, but they left the keys right there on the doorknob.
That's right. It's enough to make your head spin, isn't it?
It is. And it gets worse. Because of the way the Identity Provider API was set up.
The Identity Provider API.
Yeah, basically, anyone who got their hands on those compromised credentials could access user data.
Wait, hold on. They had weak security, left the doors wide open, and then basically handed out spare keys to anyone who asked. This is starting to sound less like a data breach and more like a complete meltdown.
You got it. And this wasn't just some little mistake. This shows a much bigger problem. This is about a complete disregard for security.
All in the name of what? Speed. Efficiency.
You got it. It's a classic case of, well, short-term gain, long-term pain.
But sadly, it's a pattern we see over and over again in the tech world.
It is.
Makes you want to ditch your smartphone and head for the hills.
Ah.
But before you pack your bags, let's dig a little deeper into what kind of information was exposed in this breach. And trust me, folks, it's not pretty.
Okay, let's do it. Remember those 800,000 vehicles, the ones they were tracking down to the centimeter?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Well, that data wasn't just about, location. It was like a window into people's lives.
Really?
Yeah. Their routines, their habits, everything just laid bare for anyone who could get their hands on it.
So it's not just where you went. It's like when you went there, how often, how long you stayed.
Yeah.
It's funny. They call it data collection. But to me, it sounds an awful lot like just plain snooping.
That's a good way to put it. And even though the researchers who found this breach, they did the right thing and anonymized the data.
Right.
It doesn't take a lot of imagination to see how this kind of information could end up in the wrong hands.
That's true. Okay, let's play a little game here.
The game.
Yeah, let's call it What Could Possibly Go Wrong?
Okay.
Imagine this data ends up with, say, an insurance company.
Okay, yeah.
They could use it to, adjust your rates based on your driving habits.
Oh, absolutely. Or how about a marketing firm?
Oh, yeah.
They could use it to target you with ads based on, where you go and what you do.
Oh, I can see that. And then there's, well, the scarier stuff. Imagine a criminal using this data to,
To stalk you.
yeah, to know your every move,
Ooh.
to predict your every step.
It's a pretty disturbing thought.
It's like something out of a nightmare. This is a wake-up call, folks. We're living in a world where every move we make is being tracked, analyzed, and, possibly used against us.
Yeah.
And it's not just Volkswagen. It's happening everywhere.
You're absolutely right. This is a symptom of a much bigger problem. We've become so dependent on technology.
So hooked on the latest gadgets.
Exactly. We've forgotten to ask some basic questions like who's collecting all this data?
Yeah, and what are they doing with it?
Exactly. And do we really want to live in a world where privacy is just, a thing in the past?
It's like we've traded our freedom for a little bit of convenience.
Hmm.
And I don't know about you, but that's a trade I'm not willing to make.
Me neither. But, before we all spiral into a panic about technology,
Right.
let's talk about solutions because as bad as things might seem, it's not all hopeless.
Okay, good. Give us some hope here. What can we do to protect ourselves in this, digital Wild West?
Well, for starters, we need to be more aware of the data we're sharing and who we're sharing it with.
You mean like reading those privacy policies?
Exactly. Read those privacy policies, folks, even if they are written in the tiniest font imaginable.
It's funny. They bury those things in a wall of text, hoping we'll just click agree without reading a word.
It's like they're trying to sneak something past us.
They are, aren't they?
They want you to agree to all their data collection practices without really understanding what you're signing up for.
So what do we do?
Take the time to read those policies. And if you don't like what you see, well, don't be afraid to walk away.
Vote with your wallet, right?
Exactly. Hit them where it hurts, their bottom line. And don't be afraid to demand better security from the companies you do business with. Hold their feet to the fire.
Make them accountable.
Exactly. It's like that old saying, the squeaky wheel gets the grease.
So let's all start squeaking.
Exactly. And on a personal level, there are things you can do to protect your data. Strong passwords, two-factor authentication, encryption, these are all good things.
We used to think of all that stuff as being for, the techies, the computer nerds who live and breathe code.
Right.
But these days, everyone needs to be a little bit tech savvy.
It's true. It's not about becoming a hacker overnight. It's about taking some simple steps to protect yourself.
It's like locking your doors at night. It's just common sense.
Exactly. But you know what? All this talk about privacy and security, it's really just part of a much bigger issue.
Oh, I agree. We're talking about a fundamental shift in our relationship with technology.
Exactly.
We used to think of technology as a tool, right?
Yeah.
Something to make our lives easier.
More efficient.
Right. More connected. But somewhere along the way, it feels like technology has become the one in control.
It's like we've created this digital Frankenstein's monster.
And now it's turning on us.
Exactly. And the scariest part, we don't even know how to turn it off.
That's a scary thought. But you know what? Despite all this, I'm still an optimist.
Really?
I believe we can find a way to take back our digital lives.
I like that.
To find that balance between the good things about technology and, the need for privacy and security.
I like your optimism.
I think we have to be optimistic. We've faced challenges before, and we've always found a way to overcome them. This digital dilemma, it's no different. We need to talk about it. Talk about the trade-offs, the kind of world we want to live in.
I agree. We need to have that conversation.
Because the future's not set in stone, right? It's not some inevitable march towards a techno-dystopia. We have a choice.
We do.
We can choose to be passive consumers, just accepting whatever new gadget comes along. Or we can choose to be informed, engaged citizens, demanding that technology works for us, not the other way around.
It's time to take back control of our digital lives.
Yes, it's time to reclaim our privacy, our security, our freedom.
It's time to say no to the relentless march of technology and yes to a future where human values, not algorithms, shape our destiny.
Beautifully said. And on that note, folks, we've reached the end of our deep dive into the Volkswagen data security breach.
We've covered a lot today.
We have. From the technical stuff to the bigger implications for, privacy and security in this digital age.
We've talked about the vulnerabilities of these connected cars, the potential for misuse of personal data, and how important it is to demand better security from these companies.
Absolutely. But most importantly, we hope we've given you the tools to take control of your digital lives.
And protect your privacy in this crazy interconnected world.
Because remember, folks, knowledge is power. The more you know, the better equipped you'll be to navigate this brave new world.
Just stay vigilant, stay informed, and stay safe out there.
Until next time, this is Andy Analog,
And Betty Betamax.
signing off.